Yes, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman, Alfred.
I'm Batman.
I am Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman. I'm vengeance.
Greetings, Bat Family, and welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by real fans for real movies. Make sure you visit holybatcast.com or find us all over social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast and you will find us. If you love the show, you want to help support us, you can do that on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. Big ol' thank you to all our patrons. You guys keep the lights on and make our lives a lot easier. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. We are part of the Real Fans Podcast Network, so if you're looking for other shows to enjoy, you can check those out at rf4rm.com. And as always, I'm Andy DiGenova. You can follow me on Twitter or on Instagram. It's just my name, Andy DiGenova. Now, this episode is sort of a follow-up to the last episode. Last time we reviewed Wonder Woman 1984 in great detail, spoiler-free and spoiler-filled. But we did promise we were going to give you guys a chance to chime in, ask some questions, share your thoughts, and so this is our Wonder Woman 1984 email episode. Joining me are the same two gentlemen who joined me last time. So the old Holy BatCast core crew is back, up early, back in Indiana. It is Jamie Drewley. Hey, Jamie, 2 episodes in a row. You spoil us.
I feel so accomplished.
Good. People were happy to hear you back.
They were?
Yeah. I mean, the ones who said it, they're like, yeah, good to hear Jamie back. They would have tagged you on Twitter, but they can't.
Twitter? What's Twitter?
I don't know. Something the kids do. Well, thanks for making the time. It's 2 weeks in a row. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me back. It's going to be a good time. I'm sure there's going to be some interesting things to discuss today.
I have no doubt. And I haven't really looked ahead, so we'll all discover it together.
Oh, it's a surprise for everybody.
Yeah, I did not prepare at all, so it's going to be fun.
It's like, well, it's not quite Russian Orthodox Christmas, but it's close.
Okay, if you say so. I don't know a lot about that.
I think it's like January 14th.
Oh, okay, great. Anyway, also joining us down there in Brisbane in another little COVID lockdown. He was telling us all about it. It's Brendan Lowe. Hey, Brendan, since you're locked in the house, can't go anywhere, thanks for recording with us.
That's fine. I mean, that's the only reason I'm here.
Obviously,
like,
yeah.
I'm
I mean,
stuck at home. Nothing
usually
better
you're
to
so busy out there being social.
Yeah, 9:30 on a Saturday night. That's me, party man.
I know, with all your real life friends.
Yeah. Who are they? No. Yeah, no, Brisbane had a little scare this week. It was just one person with that UK morphed, messed up strain. So the Premier's gone, nah, let's shut it down for 3 days. So that's what they've done. It's, it wasn't through people doing the wrong thing or anything. It was just one poor person who was doing all the right thing at a hotel quarantine, one of the cleaners there. And yeah, the poor bugger got this mutant strain, and yeah, they've shut it down for a couple of days. So yeah, I'm at home, living the dream. It's all good. We're nice and safe.
Shut it down.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, let's not think about that. Let's think about Wonder Woman and occasionally Batman. Usually Batman, but this time Wonder Woman. Yeah. We did, we reviewed it on the last episode, and we did throw it out there and say, write your emails, write your questions. The thing is, I should tee this up by saying we had a bunch of emails already waiting. So the first batch are not necessarily going to be Wonder Woman 1984 specific. But then as we get deeper into the pile, more and more will be about Wonder Woman. So we got to catch up, and then we'll get to the Wonder Woman ones. But before we even read the first email, there was like a little Wonder Woman news story this week that I thought was worth mentioning, because you remember during the Batman vs. Superman watch party with Zack Snyder, he talked about how he had done a placeholder photo of Wonder Woman that, was the photo that Diana was after and then eventually Bruce found, that in the final product ended up being that photo from the original Wonder Woman film. But he said he did a placeholder photo from, what was the Crimean War?
Crimean War.
Crimean War. Thank you. And I remember when we talked about that, I remember you going, "Oh, I want to see that photo." And a lot of people said that same thing. I want to see that photo. And so last week, Zack Snyder shared the photo. And so he tweeted it out, and a lot of folks started talking about it, and it was interesting. So I didn't know if you guys had seen it or wanted to talk about it. I was just curious to get your guys' impressions. Now, Jamie, because you're not on Twitter, did you even see the photo?
I don't even know what you're talking about, so yeah.
So you missed it. Okay. Well, I mean, you can Google it if you like, or you can just not worry about it.
The thing that I liked about it with all things Zack Snyder and DC is that there was no controversy whatsoever.
Oh yeah, that was the nice thing is everyone agreed on it. Everyone's like,
yeah,
everyone,
it was
yeah,
great.
yeah, everyone. It was a real crowd pleaser. So
I thought it was kind of badass. Like, you know, if there was no Wonder Woman movie that he had to go on, there was no story for it that he had to go on, so he, you know, did his own thing, and that was fine. It was not too dissimilar to what ended up being in the movie. It was just a different war, and there's a couple of heads in there. What's the problem?
Well, no, that's just it. I Google Wonder Woman photo, and I hit the news section on Google, and literally the very first thing I see is a thing from CBR, which I'm going to go on record right now as saying I effing hate CBR. I hate them. Wonder Woman's beheading photo proves, in big capital letters, proves Zack Snyder did not, quote, get, unquote, the hero. Do you know how many times I've seen Wonder Woman behead somebody in the last decade? It's not like Zack Snyder started that. Let me find this photo right quick.
did you actually see the photo yet?
No, not yet.
I can send it to you. I have it right here in front of me.
Well, I'm sure one of these has it. I'm just not. I'm trying to find some place that I'm not going to feel dirty for clicking.
No, I can just. I'll just
So
send it
far,
to
I'm
the.
seeing none.
I'll send
Okay.
it to the group. Here we go.
Yeah, just send it. Yeah,
I'll
thank
send
you.
it. This is directly from the source. This is the one that Zack Snyder tweeted out, so it's a very good quality. So it was he was doing like one of his I think like a video call live stream with some fans, and that was where he kind of showed it, and then people like screenshotted it, and then they were sharing not the best resolution. Everybody was trying to get a better resolution of it. And then I think like the next day he just tweeted a high res version, so that way everyone had it and it was easier. So, but when he tweeted it, by the time he tweeted it, there was already the, you know, fans arguing, as they will. And so his caption made me laugh really hard because it was so like intentional because of the conversation that had happened. So the photo itself, I mean, again, if you're listening to this, you've probably seen it, but it's from the Crimean War, is that right? Crimean War.
I think so.
And the reason he picked it is because he said it was the first war that was photographed. It was the first time they could use photographs. And so...
Makes sense.
Yeah, which makes sense. And it's a photo of Wonder Woman with a bunch of different warriors from a lot of different cultures, which I actually is really cool. And then she's standing right up front in a cape with a spear, and then, yes, holding 3 severed heads. And then, so anyway, a lot, you know, Zack Snyder fans says it's awesome. We love it. Zack Snyder haters were like, Wonder Woman is holding severed heads. He doesn't understand DC characters. And so, yeah, much fighting ensued, as is usually the case. So the next day when Zack Snyder tweeted it out, like in good quality, here's what he said. He said, Wonder Woman 1854. This amazing image, shot by Steven Berkman, of an Elseworld war-weary Diana who had chased Ares across the battlefields of the world and had yet to meet Steve, who would help her restore her faith in mankind and love itself. I laughed just because he was like, oh God, you guys are fighting about this. It was an Elseworld. This was before she met Steve. It was an idea. She was already chasing Ares across man's world. Like, but anyway, what was your thought on the image, Brendan? So we give Jamie a moment to look at it and digest it.
Well, like I said just before, like I thought it was kind of cool. Like I didn't give it too much thought because it doesn't matter because it's not what they ended up doing.
Yeah.
Like, it was a placeholder photo. Like, it was an idea that they could have pursued if they wanted to. And guess what? They didn't. We got what we got. You know, the really cool photo from World War One with Steve Trevor and the gang. Like, who gives a shit? Like, really, it's something that didn't happen. So don't get your knickers in a knot about it. Is my opinion. I think it's a cool image. I really like it.
Ah, okay. Jamie, did you get it? You looking at it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thoughts, feelings, impressions?
I mean, for me, I'm kind of indifferent. I don't mind it. I don't love it. It's there. It's just an image. I mean, I do appreciate the fact that they have the various warriors around her. I think that was pretty cool. But, you know, the severed head thing. Look, I don't want to spend all day doing this because, you know, I have to go to work today and everything else. And we have more pressing things to discuss, I'm sure. But the same people that are bitching about her in a photo holding some severed heads are probably the same ones who 3 or 4 years ago were bitching because true Amazon culture, she would have removed one of her breasts in order to be able to handle a bow and arrow more effectively. People just want a bitch to bitch. I mean, if you are a warrior culture, you're not going to have any qualm about taking somebody's head off.
Especially not if they're an evil son of a bitch.
Right. Is it extreme? Maybe. I don't know. I wasn't in that war. I don't know what happened. I'm not a historian. I don't even remember the Crimean or Crimerian or whatever it was. I don't know anything about it. So I can't tell you who they were fighting or anything else. People, why do we want to get our blood pressure up about something like this? It's a damn photo. It's not real. She didn't actually kill somebody.
Okay. I think the image itself is awesome. Like, it's so cool. Like, she looks amazing. The outfit looks great. The spear, the way she's standing out front, she looks great. I love the variety of warriors she is standing with. It's a great image. I don't like the severed heads. I think the severed heads is too much. I think it's one step too far. But to your point, and to many people's points over the past week, like, they didn't use it. You know, like, it's not in the movie. It's not there. Someone even asked Zack Snyder's like, oh, would you ever put this back in the movie? And he goes, no, because it would contradict Patty Jenkins' wonderful film that she made. So no, I wouldn't put it in. So, like, I'm not upset about it. Like, if that was the actual one that was in the movie, would it bug me? Yeah, I think it would. But I also liked his explanation for it. Like, that actually sounds like a really cool, like, Elseworlds book that I would read, where, like, before Steve brings Diana into Man's World, she has to go by herself to help chase down Ares. Like, that actually sounds like a really cool story that I would read in a comic. So I'd be down for that. So yeah, like, as far as like an Elseworld story of like Steve wasn't the one who brought her to Man's World, she had to go because she was in pursuit of Ares, and when she was there, she was straight up 100% warrior, and that meant, you know, take no prisoners and chopping heads. And then once she meets Steve, that's where, you know, he really changes her. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a story I'd like to see, or a story I'd like to read. I think that's actually a really neat idea. So yeah, that's where I stand. Great image. If you know, if it was, if Diana was just taking heads as trophies in the movies right now, I'd have an issue with that. I wouldn't be so into it. But for what this is, that's fine. Doesn't bother me.
Mountains out of
They
molehills.
didn't do it.
Yeah,
they didn't do it. Who cares?
Yeah. So anyway, that's just my thought. It was cool that he shared that, though. You know, like another interesting glimpse. But do you know what I thought of? Is I was like, setting up that photo, like, had to have been expensive and a lot of work.
That's what I was thinking.
Because, like, you had to, like, hire actors and design costumes, and, like, there was a lot of work put into that one image that didn't even get used. That's crazy to me.
Are we sure that it wasn't a lot of digital enhancement involved?
If it is, it's perfect because it doesn't look in any way photoshopped.
Kryptonian armor from Man of Steel. I'm just saying.
I guess that's true. But yeah, so Yeah, I was just like, man, that's a lot of work for an image that didn't get used, but it's pretty awesome. So anyway, I thought it was worth mentioning, especially because we're talking about Wonder Woman anyway. But we can move on. We can move on to some emails. Let's see what our friends have to say as we crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Derek. What is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all, Master Wayne.
The Diana Prince mailbox? The Invisible Jet mailbox? I hadn't really thought about it. All right, here we go. This one is from our pal Jim Scroggs. He says,
I love it when he starts an email by doing that laugh. That's always a good sign.
well, it's because he addressed it. Dear
And now you're scribbling down the timestamp for that.
Yep, I mean, and that's not like Jim at all. Jim is usually so polite, so strange. But yeah, that's what I was like, wait, okay.
One of us. One of
Oh,
us.
God, we're a bad influence. He said, this is a scenario where Brewster's Millions rules apply with a DC twist. How would you spend the
that movie,
money,
bud.
and what DC memorabilia would you buy with it? But you can't buy Action Comics #1 or Detective #27. Jim
Oh,
Scroggs.
Well,
what's
shit,
the
I'm out.
point
That's
then?
exactly where I was going to go.
Nope.
So remind me, because I saw that movie when I was a kid, it's how much and how long you've got to spend it?
In the case of Brewster's Millions with Richard Pryor and John Candy, he has 30 days to spend $30 million, but he can't have anything to show for it when he's done. He can donate 10% to charity, blah, blah, blah. But basically, he has to spend $30 million in a month, and he can't have anything to show for it. And if he does it and pulls it off, he inherits $300 million.
I am glad you remembered, because I don't know if I've ever seen that movie in its entirety. So I'm glad you remember.
It's great, dude. Watch it, seriously.
But here's the issue is like that. I did remember that he had to spend this money, but he couldn't have anything to show for it. But Jim saying, what DC memorabilia would you buy? So maybe he just wants to spend $30 million in 30 days, but maybe we can buy stuff we get to keep.
I guess.
So let's go with
if
that.
I can't have Action Comics #1 or Detective 27, can I have Superman #1 and Batman #1?
Sure, if you want to be
Or are we
boring.
just cutting comics out altogether here?
I mean,
Oh, that's still playing by the rules. You're not getting action or detective, so
yeah. I mean, I love comics, but I don't want the comics. Like, I would buy a real street legal Batmobile.
that's exactly where my mind. You know what? I'd buy multiple. I'd
Yeah.
buy one from every film.
Well, I would probably just buy.
That was the next
go
place
all
I
the
was
way
going to
through.
go. I mean, you sure you guys need me on this episode? Because I can't buy the comics I want. Brendan stole my Batmobile idea. I guess I'm buying Wayne Manor. There.
Well, I was thinking like I would buy a Batmobile, the Burton Batmobile, and then I would like outfit a room in the house like the Batcave, and make it like my Batcave office / podcasting studio.
That's awesome.
And then I would get like a
Fill it with
tailored
memorabilia, like
bat
props and
suit
shit.
that I could wear and fight crime in. I guess I would just become Batman. Like, just become Batman. 30.
Andy would
well-
sit in this office all day and just eat vicious swap.
It's supposed to be cold.
It's supposed to be cold.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
you could hire me as a butler.
I was going to say, I would just hire an Alfred, except he'd be Brendan, and I'd make him sit at a table not too far from me with headphones and make him DJ stuff.
Definitely get your productivity's out the door, because I know if you hire him, you're going to make him wear that dirty, slutty maid's outfit.
That's right. It will be. He will be Alfred, but he will be dressed like the maid from Clue.
I was waiting to hear what was going to happen with the bat poles, but
Oh, you'll be spending a lot of time polishing the bat poles.
no, I would go Batmobiles, and then like just as much sort of Scream memorabilia that I could, and autograph stuff. I mean, I love that kind of stuff anyway, so that'd be me. Wouldn't even need to think about it.
I'd pay Michael Keaton to come to my birthday party and like also record my voicemail message.
I would develop a real Smilex gas and drop it on everybody that I could reach, because people don't smile enough.
You know,
they're just angry about everything.
I'd become
I wanna see
Batman.
people smile
Jamie
and
would
be
become the Joker.
And you deploy it on like a parade float, obviously dancing to Prince music.
Oh, definitely. Parade. There you go.
Is there
Throw
another
a
way?
parade.
I'd have to get a purple suit made.
I think you'd look
Man,
great.
you got the money.
Yeah, do it. Did that answer the question?
I don't know. but I had
Probably
fun
about as
doing it.
effectively as
Kinda.
it's going.
It kinda did. It kinda did. Okay, next message is from our pal Tom Fallows. It says, "Hey, my question for the week: You live in Gotham. What job would you like to have? An officer at the GCPD, an employee at Wayne Enterprises, a doctor at Arkham, a barman or showgirl at the Iceberg Lounge? Gotham is your oyster." Tom Fallows. Okay.
I got mine.
What's that?
Butler at Wayne Manor.
Oh yeah, that's true. True. I would be just a Robin. Like I would apply to be Bruce Wayne's ward.
I don't have anything smart or clever to say, so I'm going to go with Wayne Manor employee, because I imagine he probably takes good care of his peoples.
Yeah, I mean the actual answer is
could be
yes.
the mechanic.
I would try to work for Wayne Enterprises because I have a feeling they have a really good benefits package.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, great. Moving forward. Next message is from Mohammed. It says, "Hey guys, hope you're doing well. I half expected HBO Max their streaming decision to cause controversy amongst directors working with WB. Unsurprisingly, I was right, with guys like Nolan, Villeneuve being pretty upset, and I also heard that Legendary might try to sue WB for making the decision without consulting them regarding Dune or Godzilla vs. King Kong. I'm pretty indifferent to the situation, as I'm not a cinema person, but I understand their perspective. What do you think?" Mohammed. Thanks, Mohammed. Okay, so this is going back to this thing. It almost feels like old news at this point. But what did you guys? What are your thoughts about some of the blowback that came at WB from filmmakers and such? Jamie, what do you think?
I mean, they're entitled to feel how they want to feel and react how they want to act. They feel like they're being wronged in this circumstance. I get it, and that's certainly their right. But the flip side of that is this, I believe it was you that said it, Andy, this is a business. What are they supposed to do? Sit on a year's worth of movies and just never do anything with them?
Right.
Movie theaters still aren't open here.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, one of my favorite local movie theaters here in town that was a smaller independent 2-screen place that served, like a full menu of food. It was called Cinema Grill. Just shut down permanently because of all this.
Oh, that's a shame.
So, I mean, what is the studio supposed to do here? The way I saw it right along is they didn't foresee any full recovery with the movie going, theater experience. They've got all this stuff that's already in the can and ready to go. Wonder Woman had already been delayed for over a year. What were they supposed to do? They can't sit on this stuff forever. They're a business. They need to make money to pay directors and employees and everybody else. I mean, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Mm-hmm. So I understand these directors may not like it and they want it to be treated as a theatrical experience and everything else. There's no right or wrong here, in my opinion. I'm kind of... I see both sides of it. I understand the perspective of it. I don't know what the studio is supposed to do. Mm-hmm. They need to get content out there for people to consume. They need to drive the numbers up for this streaming service, which, by the way, is currently my favorite of all the major streaming services. I don't know. I'm just over here shrugging because I don't know what else to say about the matter.
All right, that's okay. Brendan?
What I'm going to say might come off as really harsh, but the directors don't own the movies. They're working for the studio. The studio is boss. And if the studio decides to distribute it a certain way, the director's they've got no say in the matter. That's just the truth. Mm-hmm. artistic product is still going to be seen by people. Isn't that what they want?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they're still getting paid to do the job. In a perfect world, yeah, like you'd still get a big cinematic release and everything, but the world's far from friggin' perfect at the moment, and you know, people still want to consume their product, and the studios have had to change the way that they do things. So yeah, I mean, it sounds harsh, but it's just the way it is at the moment, unfortunately, and they kind of need to suck it up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's another thing. Now that I've thought about it for a second, I love Christopher Nolan. He's essentially my favorite living filmmaker right now. I adore Chris Nolan. I've loved every one of his movies to one degree or another. I still have not seen Tenet, so you know I can't say anything about that. But Tenet's actually why I bring this up. He refused to do anything but release it in the theater, so they kept pushing it back, and then finally they decided that was going to be the tentpole movie they were going to try and test the waters with getting back into theaters with. And my understanding is, this is secondhand information. It's not a confirmed thing or anything. So if you have different information, whatever. But I'm told most accounts are saying that movie was a $100 million bath for Warner Brothers. Mm-hmm. That's not to say that releasing it on HBO Max or in premium rental format wouldn't have still lost money, but I'm pretty sure it probably wouldn't have lost $100 million. Mm-hmm. So if Nolan and these other directors, if they can't comprehend the business side of it, I don't know what else to tell them, you know?
I was just about to say something very similar. I love Christopher Nolan, but he needs a little perspective here. Because, to your point, they 100% held on to Tenet and did exactly what he asked and released it in theaters only as the savior of cinema. And guess what? People didn't go, or they couldn't go, and Warner Brothers, in an attempt to do right by Christopher Nolan, lost millions of dollars. Who knows how many millions, but millions of dollars. They tried to play it his way, and they're the ones paying for it. He doesn't. He still gets his money regardless. They're paying for it. The company's paying for it. The people who've lost their jobs paid for it. Christopher Nolan doesn't pay for it. He's fine. Denis Villeneuve, he made Blade Runner 2049. Is that right? 2049?
Yes.
Which I still have not seen. Forgive me. I hear it's wonderful, but I've never seen it.
It's a beautiful film. It really is.
Here's the thing. They let him make Blade Runner 2049. I'm not the only one who didn't see it. A lot of people didn't see it. Warner Brothers took a huge bath on that film as well. And you know what they did? They gave Denis Villeneuve another $200 million to make Dune, after he lost them a ton of money on Blade Runner 2049, because they believe in him as a talented filmmaker. So
one of the best in the business. He's another one of my active favorites. I think he's an incredible filmmaker.
He's great.
I was still disappointed he passed on Bond to do Dune, because he would. Yeah, I was curious to see what he'd do with that.
Dune's a risky proposition too, because you got a lot of hardcore fans of those Frank Herbert books out there, and you have a David Lynch that did the movie from '84 or whatever?
Yeah. That
wasn't particularly well received, and honestly, I just watched that for the first time a couple of months ago. I get why it wasn't particularly well received. So other than his, incredible filmmaking skills and the amazing cast that he's assembled for that, $200 million for that is huge risk.
Yeah. And
huge.
So they tried to play it Nolan's way. It didn't work out for them. They put a lot of trust and money and investment into Dune. And by making the decision they did, I guarantee you more people are going to see Dune because of this than if it was theaters only. And
I don't think you're wrong about that.
And to Brendan's point, isn't that what you want? Don't you want people to see and enjoy the films that you worked so hard making? I would think so. So I think that I don't blame them for the decision they made. And it's really easy being a rich director, being like, who's already been paid, whose check has already cleared, to be like, but I only want it in the theaters. That's not the world we're living in right now. So that's my feelings.
I do wonder, and this is, opening a whole nother can, but how out of touch some of these directors may be. And some of them may do this. I don't know. Like I can see Quentin Tarantino being the kind of guy that would do this because he owns, the New Beverly Cinema? Maybe even more than that. But do these guys sit in their own private theaters viewing it on these big screens with their 35 millimeter prints and everything else? Or are they in the crowded theater on opening night around a bunch of obnoxious people with the sticky floors and the messed up seats and the body odor from the people that don't have the proper hygiene? And are they truly experiencing these movies the same way the common man is, or are they
of course
doing it on a studio lot theater where they pretty much have the whole room to themselves when they're in there?
Yeah, they're not going to the AMC.
Because it's a different experience.
Yeah.
This is why I don't like going to the theater. I can't stand the crowds, and I can't stand people talking, and I can't stand being 15 minutes into a movie and seeing 6 different cell phone lights flashing up in my face because somebody can't go that long without being on their damn phone. The experience is completely soured for me. And I wonder whether or not these people who are so desperate to preserve the cinematic experience are getting truly the same cinematic experience as you and I are.
Yeah. All right, moving forward. Next message is from Franklin Gnosis. It says, "Hey guys, I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season. The other day I was watching Batman Returns as part of my annual holiday watches, and I came across a 1992 talk show on YouTube. I didn't realize how big of a controversy the movie was at the time. I was born in 96, so I wasn't around. What I did know was how much backlash it had for being dark, but I didn't honestly know that it was this big of an issue. One of the questions that stood out to me was, who were to blame, the makers of the movie or the promoters? I think it was the promoters and the ads, because the movie was PG-13, so it was meant for mature audiences. It wasn't a Lego Batman movie for kids, so who do you think was to blame? I also provided a link to the clip. Happy New Year, Franklin." Thanks, Franklin. All right, the old Batman Returns controversy. I do like watching some of those older videos of being like, oh my God, this movie is scary. This movie's gross. This movie's not for kids. That's why Brendan didn't get to see it.
Yeah, still pisses me off.
So who do you blame? The makers of the film or the marketing? What do you think? Brendan, since it kept you from the movie, what do you think?
It's the marketing, obviously. Like the movie is the movie. That's the movie that they gave Tim Burton free rein.
Yeah.
And Tim Burton made the movie he wanted to make, and he didn't give a crap about selling toys or whatever. He wanted to make the movie he wanted. So yeah, it's the marketing, without a doubt.
I'm not sure I understand the context of the question. Can you clear it up for me?
No, just basically like the backlash in 1992 about Batman Returns not being a kids movie. Who was to blame? Was it the fact that they made a movie that was too dark for kids, or was it the fact that they marketed it to kids?
Did they really market it to kids?
I mean, there were Happy Meals and there were toys at Toys R Us.
I mean, there were Rambo toys in the aisles in 1986.
Yes. Yes.
There were RoboCop toys in the aisles in 1987 or 88.
There were Terminator 2 action figures the year before, and that was rated R.
That's what I'm saying. These are all films that were. I don't know. I don't remember. I mean, I was 17 when that came out. Is that right? 92. Yeah, 17. And I remember the commercials and everything else, and I never remember thinking to myself, boy, this really seems like a family-friendly deal. I remember my grandmother watching the movie and saying it stunk and she couldn't stand it. But my grandmother was a very strange lady. My grandmother was terrified by gremlins, so that was the last time she ever set foot in a theater, was that. I don't know who's to blame there, but I guess if you want to blame anybody for how it turned out, it's Tim Burton in the studio for agreeing to let him do it without a leash. I mean, I don't really understand who I'm supposed to throw any blame at.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame anyone, I guess. Like it's the movie was the movie. And to your point, there were tons of movies in the 80s and 90s that were PG-13 or even R that were still marketed to kids. Like this was nothing new. So
1979, there was a giant alien doll action figure thing that had like the tongue action that came out.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, how many kids saw Alien in 1979? Are we serious here?
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, that
Toy marketing and actual movie stuff is not the same thing. Like the concept of RoboCop, that should be something that would be for kids, but anybody who's seen that movie knows damn well it ain't for kids.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was anything new. It was done with many event movies before and after Batman Returns. And I mean, what I think is funny is that movie, time has been kind to it, I think, like, because now that you don't really even hear any of that controversy. It has its following, it has its fans, and generally it's got a pretty good reputation. So yeah, it's just funny. It was a big deal at the time, but now I just feel like it's much ado about nothing. All right, next message is from Lee Ankrit. It says, "Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. I know you probably hate answering these kinds of questions, but I was wondering if you had some comic recommendations for me. I want to know what to read to see why Dick became Nightwing, and I know you're a huge Robin fan, so I figured you would know. Thank you. Merry Christmas, Lee." Thanks, Lee. Quick answer is the Judas Contract. That's when Dick officially becomes Nightwing for the first time. Those are Teen Titans issues. But I would also recommend reading A Lonely Place of Dying, because that also talks a lot to why Dick has moved on and why he is Nightwing now and not Robin. So those would be my recommendations. Anything to add, Jamie, Brendan?
Nope.
Nope.
That's exactly what I would have said.
I was going to refer to you guys anyway, so.
All right, cool. Next message from Eddie Bolton. There's a Wonder Woman one. He says, "Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. A quick, amusing story from my screening of Wonder Woman. I saw it on preview night in Dublin. The scene where the British woman says, 'I wish you Irish would go back to where you came from,' to which the Irish man replies, 'I wish you would drop dead.' There may have been some cheers from those watching. Despite the amusing response, I found the line quite triggering. As an Irish person, I was happy to see a mainstream film address, even quickly, the racial abuse Irish people can receive in Britain. We're not long removed from pubs in the UK having signs saying 'No blacks, no dogs, no Irish,' and Wonder Woman was brave enough to put even the tiniest spotlight on it, which meant an awful lot. Anyway, my question. Given Linda Carter's cameo at the end of Wonder Woman, what's your favorite cameo in a Batman film? Happy New Year, and thanks for making 2020 a little better, Eddie." Thanks, Eddie. Appreciate that. That is very interesting about the prejudice against the Irish. I guess that's something I never really realized.
I never thought of it too, but thinking about it now, like that would have been prime around the time of like all the IRA and stuff and everything, wouldn't it too?
Yeah.
Sort of that mid-'80s.
Mm-hmm. So, wow, that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, that's very cool that the movie would acknowledge that. Okay, a favorite cameo in a Batman film. Jamie.
I got one.
Oh, Brendan, why don't you go then?
That politician who shows up in all of them.
Well, yeah, right.
That guy. He's in all of them.
You know, that guy. Do you have one, Jamie?
I can't think of a. I mean, I guess if I would say an actual true cameo, probably Liam Neeson in Dark Knight Rises. But really, my favorite. I mean, it's more of an Easter egg than a cameo, but my brain won't let me not say it. I love the Metropolis name drop in Batman Forever.
Oh, okay. Something's where my head went, and maybe it's because me and Brendan were talking off the air. We were just talking about Batman and Robin. My head went to John Glover in Batman and Robin. As Woodrue, as Jason Woodrue. I don't know if
my brain won't let me give it credit to that movie for anything.
I don't know if
cameo though.
Yeah, that's. I don't know if it really counts as a cameo or just a small part.
It's just a smaller role.
Yeah. It's not really a cameo, but it kind of is. But what you just said, Jamie, reminded me. I'd say when Cillian Murphy shows up in The Dark Knight and then The Dark Knight Rises. Those are awesome cameos.
Good call. Yes, good call.
Yeah. I thought of that when Jamie mentioned Dark Knight Rises. Like, ooh, Cillian Murphy.
Yeah. Or could I say Kevin Costner in BVS?
Yeah.
Does that count?
Yeah, that's a cameo, definitely.
All right.
I do love that that diagnosis that's not my diagnosis he has at the beginning of Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I should have said that. I should have said that.
That's okay. We said it together as a team.
Cool.
We're all on the same team. All right, next message from Jacob. It says, "Hey guys, congrats to Brendan for the little koala. Exciting news. Cheers." Just stock up on eucalyptus. They eat a lot. They gotta grow.
Is that the email?
No, there's more. That's me.
Okay,
That's just
I
me
was
being a
gonna
jackass.
Wow.
He says, "You all mentioned that The Dark Knight Strikes Again sucks, and I couldn't agree more, but have you read the Masterclass? If so, what did you think?"
Master Race, you mean?
That he says Masterclass, but yes, Master Race. He says, "I've been hesitant because of Dark Knight Strikes Again. In year one, a bat crashes through the window, and that's when Bruce takes the mantle to become Batman. I pose to you, if another animal came through the window, which do you think would have the same impact of scaring criminals? And for fun, what would make criminals chuckle if Bruce had decided on that animal? Sorry for the longer email. Hope you have a happy new year. You guys are the best. Take care, Jake." Thank you, Jake. You're the best. So Dark Knight Strikes Again. Jamie, I think you're like one of the only people who likes it.
I'm the only person in the world who would admit out loud that they like that story. Is it inferior to the other two chapters in the Dark Knight series and even the one-offs that have come with like the Golden Child and the Last Crusade? Hell yes. It's the bottom tier of the whole thing, but I don't hate it. I like it. I don't love it. I like it.
Yeah. Well, one of these days we'll get around to reviewing it because I'll be interested to hear your thoughts. But I did like the Master Race. I remember it being really dense, and it went for a long time. So, like, I feel like it might read better all at once than, kind of month to month to month. But I did like it. I remember thinking it was a huge improvement on Strikes Again.
It is. And it's... Listen, the first books in that, where it was 4 premium formats, then Dark Knight Strikes Again was only 3, so they cut down, and then Master Race was, I believe it was 9 issues, and I think pretty much all of them, if not the bulk majority, had a supplemental book inside of them for the characters of Green Lantern or what have you. Each one kind of had a side book inside of it. So I mean, you're technically talking about 15 or 18 books for that last series.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's thick.
There's a lot. But I did like it.
The 2 one-offs that I mentioned, which by the way, Golden Child is pretty good, but that Last Crusade book, oh god, that's the second best thing out of the entire Dark Knight Returns saga.
I don't know if I read that.
So if you haven't read that, track it down.
Yeah, I don't know if I read that one.
DC Infinite or whatever.
Oh, speaking of, now that it's January 1st, or it's past January 1st, I need to log into DC Universe and see what it looks like now that they've changed it. I haven't done that. I forgot.
I can tell you my phone, I was on there yesterday because I was trying to decipher the Batman Beyond episodes, and it doesn't look any different. And they actually do still have some video stuff.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay, so I like this question. So if it wasn't a bat that crashed through, what's another good option that would scare criminals, and then what's a ridiculous option? Brendan?
Oh, God. I was going to say, over here it'd probably be a spider or something, but that's already taken.
By who?
I don't know.
That's never been done.
You're right.
Like
I noticed
Mr. Spider, the human spider? That sounds cool.
By Black Widow, obviously.
Oh, right. Or Tarantula.
Damn. Tarantula Man.
Laser Man. I can see why.
There's a lot of geckos I see on the window on my new house sometimes, and I put the light on over night time, so I'm going to say a gecko. Do you know
Able
what that
to
is?
save you 15% or more on car insurance in a single call.
I don't understand that reference, but clearly you know what a gecko is then. Yes, I would say that. That'd be kind of scary. A big lizard thing coming at you. A less scary one?
I thought the gecko was the funny one. Because geckos are little and cute.
Yeah, they are, but apparently their poo can make you very sick.
Oh, okay.
Good to know.
Yeah. I don't know. Just trying to think of like the stuff I see. I am going to say, because sometimes birds crush you, I'm going to say a pigeon
Okay.
would be the less scary one. It's just like some guy walking around shaking his head going, like that. That's
Pigeon
not
Man,
gonna
here to
scare
eat
anyone.
all of the food that you drop on the ground.
Yeah.
All right.
That went places I did not expect.
I had to help you out. You were floundering.
Oh,
Flounder Man.
All right, I'm going to give both of my answers in one shot because this is equally ridiculous and terrifying. But you guys probably don't remember, Brendan. You may not have even had this over there, but back in like the late 70s or early 80s, there was this malt liquor commercial where somebody would open the bottle or something, and then like a bull would come crashing into the bar.
Oh, yeah.
They reference it in Johnny Dangerously. Like that was the last time that I remember seeing that, and that was like 1985-ish. So it's kind of a dead thing in the pop culture awareness, but a bull crashing through a window and then he becomes Bull Man.
Okay.
Yes.
I feel like for like a badass one, I was thinking like a wolf. Because then he'd become a wolf man. That'd be good. As for something ridiculous, I keep thinking of like platypus or like a tree frog, something, just something silly, but
Tree frogs are highly venomous, though.
that's true. Just kind of like the gecko, I guess.
yeah, high in salmonella, apparently.
Yeah. So like
Most lizards are.
So, or it could just be like a chicken breast, an uncooked chicken breast left out on the counter.
All right, that one wins. We need to move along.
All right, moving forward. Next one's from O.T.L. Jones. It says, "Hey guys, Happy New Year. I hope your 2021 will be the best yet. I've got two questions. Number one, Margot Robbie has confirmed that there are no plans for a Birds of Prey sequel. So my question is, what should WB do with Harley Quinn? And by extension, Birds of Prey. Number two, if you had to take a pure, very uneducated guess, if the Batman were to have a post-credits scene, what do you think it would be? My hunch would be on the very little that we have seen that the Court of Owls, not just the Riddler, are revealed to be the masterminds of the film. So the post-credits scene could link the Court of Owls to Arkham, perhaps through introducing Dr. Hugo Strange experimenting on patients at the court's behest. What do you think? Thanks again. Happy New Year, Odile." Thanks, Odile. Okay, so what would you do with Harley and the Birds of Prey? And then an idea for a post-credit scene for the Batman. Jamie?
I have no idea what to do with Harley unless you're going to, I don't know, just another Suicide Squad movie, depending on how well received the next one is, I suppose. Mm-hmm. I really don't know what else to do with her. The post-credit scene, I would imagine probably something to do with another villain, be it Joker or Bane or something like that. Which one I really couldn't say because it's still so early on, but I would guess that if it does indeed have one, don't even know if it will because not all the DC films do, but if it does, something to do teasing the next villain.
Yeah. Brendan, what do you think?
Harley Quinn, easy. Cast someone as Poison Ivy into a Harley and Ivy movie, yesterday.
Yeah.
That's what they need to do with that character. I was going to say cast Emma Stone, but she only announced she was pregnant today, I think. So she's out for a little while. But Harley and Ivy, hands down. I have been wanting to see that movie since 2016. Post-credit, essentially just going to echo what Jamie said. It'd be cool to see something like Odile said. That'd be really cool. But I mean, I'd be happy with something that teases another villain or at the end of this movie you could have a tease of Haley's Circus is coming to town or something that sort of alludes to a Robin would be really cool. Can't think of anything else right now.
All right. I was going to say Harley and Ivy as well, but I would still go full on Gotham City Sirens. Might as well. If you're going to have Harley and Ivy, why not have Catwoman too? Why not get them all? Got to catch them all. There has been some murmurs on the social media of people really wanting a Black Canary HBO Max series with Journey Smollett-Bell, and I would be all for that. I think she was awesome in Birds of Prey, and I want more of her, so I would definitely do that. And then, yeah, as for the post-credit scene, I don't really have any more to add. I agree with you guys. I think those are great options. Next message is, I think this is from Tanishk. It says, hey guys, are you concerned regarding the tone and the violence in the Batman trailer? A lot of people are hyped, but they won't be taking their small children to the Batman movie where a serial killer suffocates a person with duct tape, and if there are more scenes like a beatdown scene that we saw. On the opposite, a lot of people... On the opposite side, a lot of people want it to be rated R, and they've even claimed that the Batman character isn't for kids. A lot of people, Batman movies. A lot of people want Batman movies to be lighthearted like Adam West after the dark takes by Burton, Nolan, and Snyder. So here's my question: should a live-action Batman movie be rated R, or should Batman movies be more lighthearted like Shazam or Aquaman? Thanks, The Dark Knight, who I assume is Tanishk. Jamie, what do you think?
No, it should not be rated R. And yes, I know everybody's going to throw crap at me on social media. Oh, wait, can't. About, creative freedoms and directors and writers and everything should tell the stories they want to tell and shouldn't be restricted by it. But I don't agree. The business sense angle of it, R rating is not a good idea for most comic book characters, particularly a premier one like Batman. I simply don't see it. Is that to say I wouldn't see it or wouldn't enjoy it? No, I certainly would, but business sense wise, no, I don't believe they should.
Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that you need to have, pardon me, an R-rated Batman. It's not necessary. I mean, there's been some pretty cool, like, beatdown action sequences in movies that aren't rated R. But in saying that too, like, I don't think it needs to be family-friendly fodder either. I mean, the Lego Batman movie exists. That was in theaters. That was definitely for kids. And, I mean, we were talking before, like, Batman Returns and everything. I mean, yes, by today's standards, they're kind of a bit campy and stupid, but aside from the Schumacher films, like, none of the Batman, like the big screen movies, obviously not including the 66 film, none of them are really, like, technically kids movies. So, yeah, I think you can sort of have it both ways. I mean, there's kids Batman stuff out there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want the Batman to be rated R. I don't think it needs to be rated R. I don't really need an R-rated Batman movie. Technically, we've already gotten one because BVS Ultimate Cut is rated R.
Joker?
Yeah, Joker. So no, like, I don't think it needs to be that. But at the same time, we haven't seen the Batman yet. So I'm going to wait to see the movie before I decide one way or the other. But yeah, based on what I've seen, do I think we could lighten up a little bit? Yeah, I do. But it doesn't mean I want to go back to the days of Schumacher. So I think there is a happy medium in there somewhere. But let's see the movie. Let's see how it turns out before we decide if it is appropriate for, people of a certain age group. We'll see. All right, next message is from Carrie Vanderberg. It says, hey guys, here's a little DC what if. If Christopher Nolan had left his Batman world a little more open-ended after The Dark Knight Rises, how would you have reacted if it was announced that Man of Steel was basically a sequel to Nolan's trilogy and it was in the same world? Man of Steel remains the same, but the sequel to that movie is more or less a mashup of the Dark Knight Rises cast and the Man of Steel cast. How would you approach Bale's Batman responding to Superman's arrival? Would you use that opportunity to add in other DC characters like Aquaman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, etc.? Or would you keep Superman as the one supernatural element? I ask this because even though I'm a massive fan of what Zack Snyder did in casting Affleck, Gal Gadot, etc., there's always been part of me that would have loved to have seen Henry Cavill sharing the screen with Bale's Batman. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Carrie Vanderberg. Thanks, Carrie. What do you think if The Dark Knight Rises was open-ended and Bale's Batman was the one in BVS? Would you be into that? And would you use that as an opportunity to expand the world, Brendan?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but before the BVS days, like I'm talking really early, I think it was even before Man of Steel had come out, or it was like just after. No, couldn't have been just after it came out because that was when they announced BVS. But there was talk that Warner Brothers wanted to bring Bale back. Am I remembering that correctly?
It was a rumor.
The rumor was they were trying to back up the Brinks truck to his front door and offer him $25 million to resume the role.
Yeah.
That's what I remember
I mean,
seeing.
Yeah, because Man of Steel is very much, not technically set in that world, but like it is set in a very realistic. I mean, it was a Nolanized version of Superman. So I mean, it could have worked. If that was the route they had, if Bale had agreed to do it, and if those rumors were true, I would have been curious to see how it would have worked. But it's funny, like ultimately, I'm glad that's not what we got. But at the same time, just like, man, the DC universe could look very different right now if that's what we had have got. And given how people a lot of people can't seem to get over the Nolan Bale Batman movies. Maybe it could have been for the better. I don't know, but it could have definitely worked if they really wanted it to, or if the creative team wanted to come back for it as well.
Mm-hmm. Jamie, what do you think?
I had an idea in my head for how it could have worked in order to reincorporate Bale into the early stages of the DCEU, and I don't even remember specifically the details, but I do remember I had it in my brain that John Blake had been operating as Nightwing and had eventually teamed up with the likes of Superman or Flash or a couple of the members of the Justice League. And they get to a situation at the end of the film where, like, there's an invasion force from, say, Apocalypse or whatever. Superman is down. They can't do anything to fight back at that moment. And one of them asked Blake, is like, what are we going to do? And Blake's like, there's one guy that I know that will know what to do in any situation. And the next movie is him trying to get Bruce back as Batman. I know that's kind of a messy, scrambled idea, but that's kind of what I had in my head for getting him back.
All right. I mean, there were certainly ways to do it, and I think I would have been okay with it. Yeah, I think Bale's Batman could have worked with Cavill's Superman. I think it could have been cool if that was the way it went. But to answer the other question, yeah, I would still want to find ways to fold in the rest of the DC universe. And that was something that I always appreciated about Zack Snyder, is he always seemed to want to do that. That was something that was always of interest to him. And it seemed like Nolan was never that interested in anyone but Batman. But like, I like the entire DC universe, so I would have liked to have seen that world expand. But yeah, I think that Christian Bale's Batman definitely could have been a version of the Batman we saw in BVS. I think it could have worked, but just not the way it worked out. Mm-hmm. All right, next message is from Mike. It says, hey guys, I was wondering if you wouldn't mind telling us your Batman autobiography. What I mean is, where did your love of Batman start, and then where did it go? For example, my Batman autobiography... I can talk. My Batman autobiography is that it all started when my parents just took me to see the 1989 film, and then a few months later, my mom let me buy a copy of Batman 440 at a local pharmacy, which was the first issue of A Lonely Place of Dying, and I still have that comic. That's where my love for Batman and comics began. Anyway, keep up the good work, and I hope you're having a wonderful new year. God bless, Mike in Louisiana. Thanks, Mike. So the Reader's Digest, I know we've told them at various times throughout the show, but the Reader's Digest version of your Batman autobiography, Jamie.
Batman was always kind of present in my mind, mostly because of like the 66 show and like the Scooby-Doo guest spots, the Super Friends cartoon. So even at a very young age, Batman was present, but my actual love and passion for Batman that I carry now came from reading The Dark Knight Returns.
Mm-hmm. Brandon?
1989, I was 5 years old. I'd never heard of Batman. I was up at my grandparents' house one afternoon. The regular shows that I used to watch weren't on for whatever reason. I think it was some political or sporting thing stopped those shows. My grandmother grabbed the TV guide and said, Batman's on. I was like, what's Batman? She said, oh, your mum used to watch it. You'll probably like it. It was the 66 show. It was the Egghead episode. And I was in love. From that moment on, it's always been Batman for me.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, Batman 89 was the biggest influence, but I already liked Batman leading up to that. Like, I liked Superpowers and Super Friends, and I had even started getting into the Batman 60s show around that same time 89 was coming, because it was still a way to get a Batman fix while I was waiting for the movie. But yeah, once I went to see Batman 89 in the theater, I was just hooked. It just started a lifelong love affair with the character. And so yeah, from then on, I bought every comic book with Batman that I could get my hands on. I bought every piece of merchandise with a bat symbol that I could get my hands on or that I could afford. Like, if I could scrounge up any money, that's what it would go to, was buying either comics or Batman paraphernalia. I had this shelf in my bedroom that, like, at the beginning of 1989 had like a couple Batman things on it, but a year later it was like there wasn't even room on the shelf anymore because I just kept putting stuff on it. And then it just grew from there, you know, one movie to the next, and then the animated series, and then comics in between. And just as Batman continued to become such a pop culture mainstay, I was there every step of the way and haven't looked back since. So there you go. Next message is from Jack Fiorillo. It says, hey guys, I hope that you liked Wonder Woman 1984. I thought it was great. My favorite part was the opening tribute to the classic Superman movies. So here's my question. If DC was to do a movie that's a tribute to a certain era of superhero movies, but using an obscure hero, what would you want? I personally would like a Batmite movie that takes place in the 1966 universe. Hope you had a great holiday, Jack. Okay, so a tribute to a certain era, but using an obscure hero. It's a kind of a complicated assignment, Jack. But what do you think? Any ideas? Jamie, Brendan?
I know the character. I'm just trying to think of the era to put him in. The question is who I want.
Yes, that's the question. Who do you want?
Yeah. the question. The answer to the question is the question.
But who's on first?
I'm just trying to. I'm just trying to think. I don't know if I'd want to go sort of like a noir kind of 30s, 40s type thing, or if I actually place him in the 80s, like the Denny O'Neil comics did, because I guess. I mean, I know I've just had Wonder Woman 84, but the 80s is technically it's a period film now. So yeah, definitely the question, just to toss up between noir or, you know, embracing the 80ness of the comics.
Okay, Jamie, any thoughts?
I kind of have it in my head to see something kind of in the 40s noirish style, but what character I'd want to see with, I'd really have to put some thought into it, and I don't want to like stumble around for an hour trying to figure it out right now. Sorry.
Yeah, the obscure character part is the tricky part of the question. But
that was my answer.
Right. But I like where your head's at, Jack, with Batmite, because with Batmite you can kind of go wherever you want. So what I would like to do is to still use Batmite, but he would be exploring the eras of Batman. And so he would visit different eras of Batman. He would visit the 60s show. He would visit the Burton films. He would visit the Schumacher films. He'd visit Lego Batman. And he would hit the animated series. And so it would almost be like a celebration of Batman in media, but through Batmite. Kind of like what they did with Brave and the Bold, but blow it up even bigger. Maybe make it an animated film so you can really like stylize those different worlds and make them feel like the originals.
I'd watch the shit out of that.
Yeah, I think I'd get in on that. Yeah.
All right, great. All right, next message is from Josh, the Bat Pastor. It says, "Hey guys, I'm sure you will do a full review on Wonder Woman 1984, but I was wondering if you felt that Kristen Wiig's performance as Barbara was a purposeful nod to Michelle Pfeiffer as Selena Kyle in Batman Returns. The look, feel, and transformation seems very similar. And then to ask a more serious question, do you feel there was a deeper message in the theme of truth versus desires for our lives, or was it just a matter of entertainment? With a grateful heart, the Bat Pastor." Thanks, Josh. Okay, so the cheetah as Catwoman. I feel like we talked about it a little bit on the episode, the review, but personally, I didn't think it was like a purposeful homage. I just think more it was just a similar arc, but maybe
Agreed.
I'm
It's just that
naive.
trope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
They're always going to get comparisons to whichever one came before when you go that route.
Yeah. Because it didn't feel intentional enough, like, and then truth
Like
versus
cheetahs weren't biting her fingers and stuff.
right, and then truth versus desires. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's more than just entertainment. Obviously, Patty Jenkins had something she wanted to say there, and yeah, I mean, it was sort of, I guess it's the old cliche of the ugly truth is better than the beautiful lie. And the beautiful lie was obviously a big theme in Batman versus Superman. And Patty here was like, well, the truth isn't even ugly just because it's true. The truth can be beautiful in its own way, too. And that truth is more important than blinding yourself with a lie or with your own selfish desire. So, yeah, I think there's tons there that, she wants to say about that, and starts from the very beginning of the film and follows all the way through. But again, I think we got into that, just not exactly the way you worded it here in this email. But yeah, thoughts, Jamie, Brendan?
It was deliberate. Very, very deliberate.
Yeah, I agree. I can't really add more than that other than, definitely more than just surface entertainment.
Sure. All right, next message is from Kendrick. It says, "Hey guys, I'm an episode behind, but I wanted to thank you guys for doing a commentary on Return of the Joker. It was fun hearing you appreciate the film as much as I do. Also, Andy, were you sipping eggnog with a little joy in it because you made a Batman Forever Riddler joke? Admit it, you love that movie. Happy holidays and take care, Bat Brethren." Well, glad you appreciated the commentary, Kendrick. No, I was not drinking, and I can still make references to Batman Forever. It does not mean I love it, and I'm not going to say I love it, but I can certainly reference it. But that was, no question. But thank you for writing it. Next message. It's Tanishq again. So this is how long we've been sitting on emails, and this was about Wonder Woman 1984. He says, "I absolutely loved it, but seeing the discourse about it, it took me back to BVS and Suicide Squad, Justice League, The Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker. It's never a good thing. So in simple words, it's a SHIT show." That's right. I'll say but not shit show. That's how it works.
You're making so much work for yourself in this episode. I just got on the record as saying I have not said it once.
I just love that no matter who says it or how many times they say it, Brendan still laughs at it. That's what I love about it.
It always works. He
It's
says...
because it's like, I started saying it as a joke off air, and then, you've just taken it and run with it. I'm half proud, half ashamed. Actually, no, it's not true. I'm totally proud.
Okay, that's fine. Anyway, he says, "Here's my question. Do you think that Patty Jenkins handled well the walking away for 100 years plot line with the flying sequences and the other stuff in the continuity for the DCEU? May the Bat Force be with you, Tanishq." So yeah, we talked about that in the review as well. What did you guys think?
It's a retcon.
It is, but I feel like it's a retcon done in just a good enough way that it still mostly works,
Yeah, agreed.
At least
It's not
3
perfect,
times in
but
the
it's
course
there.
of the last week and a half, somebody has thrown in my face all of the inconsistencies that are riddled throughout this movie. And then when I ask them what they are, I get 0 response.
Oh.
So I don't know. I don't have any issues with how they dealt with any of that stuff. I addressed a couple of them when we did the review episode. I mean, if somebody wants to point out to me what is legitimately inconsistent instead of what you assume is inconsistent or anything else, I'm certainly willing to listen. But I mean, you can't send it to me on Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, this is the beauty of me sleeping while everyone else is awake, is I've been missing so much of this stuff because it's happening while I'm in bed.
Your life is richer and fuller for it.
It is, I got enough to worry about without worrying about that. But
As you
no,
know, I went into a whole thing in another group yesterday, and God bless them. I eventually just had enough because
yeah,
nobody's changing anybody's mind. If you like the movie, great. If you didn't like the movie, that's okay too. It's just, I think there's a lot of unfair criticism being thrown at it, as there is with so many DC films, and I had enough, so I had to say something yesterday, and my sanity paid for that a little bit.
Yeah. No, I think that they made it in that she walked away from humanity emotionally, but that doesn't mean she stopped helping. That's the way I read Wonder Woman 1984, and I think that works with what we see in BVS. But as I said on the review episode, I'm like, but the issue is, by the end of Wonder Woman 1984, she is now more open to letting people back into her life. And it seems like that doesn't necessarily jive where we check in with Diana in BVS, but for the most part, I think it works.
I don't even know about that. I mean, she's still alone at the end of Wonder Woman 84.
She is.
That doesn't mean she doesn't love people or anything. I mean, she's like me. I love people. I just don't like them. I know that doesn't make sense to most people, but I mean, it's just, that's literally how I function. I genuinely love people. I have no desire to be around 99.99% of them.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, yeah, sure. It's left vague enough. I think it still works. Let's move forward. Next message is from Adam. It says, "Hey guys, speaking about Wonder Woman 1984, I'm super disappointed to see the negativity towards the movie. I loved it. I don't mean to be that guy, but this film does to be suffering negative reviews from lofty expectations that people have because of how culturally impactful and seamless the first movie is. But here's one of my few criticisms. Why 1984? Why not the 1980s in general or the Cold War? Why that specific year? All I can think of is in regards to that specific year is the novel 1984 by George Orwell, which is about the Big Brother government. So when I first heard the title, I thought Big Brother themes would be in the film. See what I mean? Any thoughts on what I see as an arbitrary title? Thanks, guys." All right, thanks, Adam. What do you think? Why 1984 specifically?
My guess is it's just smack dab in the middle of it, depending on who you talk to. Like my brother-in-law and his friend, they have this thing about, you didn't go to high school in the 80s, because they're like 8-9 years older than me. You're like, you didn't go to high school in the 80s. I'm like, I started high school in 1989. They're like, no. The 90s started in about 88 or 89. The 80s actually started in like 78 or 81 or, just some people just don't have it in their minds that, like the decades actually started when 1980 hit, 1990 hit, whatever. So my guess is 84 was chosen because it's just smack dab in the middle of everything that she was trying to show for that era of the 1980s.
Brendan?
I mean, clearly it's because the year I was born.
Clearly.
And
the world went to hell. See? Thanks a lot.
Yep. No, I sort of agree with Jamie. It's just kind of, mid 80s. I don't know, Wonder Woman 84, and it's sort of got a bit of a ring to it. I don't know if there's any. It's just one of those things. Maybe you're overthinking it. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. I think it's just because, it's nice and clean right in the middle of the decade. They wanted to use the reputation and the reality of the 80s, of the decade of excess, the decade of greed is good, more is more. And they wanted to use that, so they just picked a date smack dab in the middle, 84. So I think that's the only reason why. All right, next message is from our pal Jazzy Jules, Julian Chan. He says, "Hey guys, I hope you had a wonderful festive season. Here's a silly question, but which non-Batman villain do you think would make a good cinematic villain for the Bat? Ciao for now, Julian. Thanks, Julian. This is a random question, but like kind of a creative one. So, some other villain that's not a Batman villain, it seems like, but like within the DC universe, you'd like to see pop up in a Batman movie as a villain.
So within the DC universe?
I think so. That's the way I read it.
So I was going to say Hans Gruber.
Because it's kind of where it seemed like Ben Affleck was going. Because I don't consider Deathstroke a Batman villain, but he's close enough that it's not a huge reach to bring him in to be a Batman villain. So I almost feel like that's what Ben was going for. So I'm trying to think: is there another DC villain that's not traditionally a Batman villain who, if they popped up in a Batman movie, you'd go, "Oh man, that's awesome."
Monarch.
Ha. I like Monarch.
I don't know.
I mean, I feel like Lex Luthor is a obvious choice
Yeah.
because of like LexCorp, being a threat to Wayne Enterprises, that kind of thing. But I want someone cool. I want someone cooler than that. I feel like we can do better than that. Trying to think of what other DC villains are.
Is Solomon Grundy considered a Batman villain?
I mean, I would love that. Not necessarily. He certainly pops up with Batman on occasion, but I don't think I wouldn't call him a Bat villain.
That's my answer then, just because I like Grundy.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. Brendan, thoughts?
Trying to think. Merlin? Or
As in the Archer or as in the Magician?
as in the Arrow villain.
The Archer, yeah.
Or oh god, I'm blanking. Is it Vertigo? Count Vertigo.
Yeah. I don't have another great answer, so I'll just say Black Manta just because I like him. Because why not?
Everybody needs more Manta in their lives.
All right. Sorry, Julian. Wish we had better answers for you, but you threw us all for a loop, as the pauses showed you. Next message is from Dave. It says, "Hey guys, I'd love to hear you talk more about the interview that Patty Jenkins gave to Marin this week. I thought it was fascinating, especially part about the big ending of the first Wonder Woman movie and her concept versus the studio's concept. Thanks, Dave. I don't have that in front of me, but I did see her talk about that, about how, the finale was part of the reshoots. Originally, it was going to be smaller. They wanted something a little bigger. So yeah, that was sort of mandated from them. But do you guys remember any other details to that? I think it was she didn't go into great detail. I feel like that's pretty much what she said.
I don't even know what you're talking about, so I can't offer anything there.
Okay, well, basically that's all I remember of what she said. Brendan, did you see this?
But honestly I can't remember it.
God,
yeah, I'm no good with you on this one.
Both of you. No help at all. That's what I remember her saying, is basically there was an original ending that was smaller in scale. The studio wanted something bigger and more exciting, so the ending was reshot. We all kind of already knew that. I had heard rumors of what the original ending was. It sounded a little confusing to me, honestly, but maybe the synopsis I read was just not written well. But here's the thing: is like people tend to go, the first Wonder Woman's amazing, but the third act is, is the worst part. And I'm like, I actually really like the third act. I really like the final battle between her and Ares. I think it's really exciting and well done. And at the same time, I also think that, there's good emotion and good character work in that finale too. So I never really had a problem with the final battle in Wonder Woman. I would certainly be curious to see what the original one was, but yeah.
She cuts his head off.
Of course, and carries it around.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I didn't watch the whole interview. I just watched that one little snippet because that was what was making the rounds. But yeah, I like the finale of Wonder Woman just fine. But yeah, I'd be curious to see what else Patty had in mind. All All right. Next message is from Brian B. It says, hey, question. My friends are definitely not comic fans, even though they enjoy the Dark Knight trilogy. When having a call with them, the new movie was brought up. After sending them the trailer on YouTube, my one buddy had an interesting take. He said it looked like a Nolan ripoff, but darker and with Nirvana. I was jarred by this. It got me thinking, do you think audiences will reject this version as a Dark Knight trilogy ripoff, even if the film is on equal footing? Personally, I've always thought this could be the case where it became apparent it's a grounded approach, but having someone with no horse in the race say that cemented it for me. Do you think it could be a problem? Also, with 2021 here, what films are you most looking forward to? My caveat being, you can't name a comic book film or a James Bond film. Mine would be Ghostbusters. Lastly, while this year's been brutal, I'd like to thank you guys for keeping the podcast going in these times, and I'm glad you guys found something to celebrate during the year with the engagement and the future Bat fan on the way. Hopefully 2021 is the best year for everyone. Thanks for the hard work. Sorry for the lengthy email. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. So do you think that, like non-Bat fans might not be super into the Matt Reeves take? Is it a little too close to Nolan? And then what film are you most looking forward to in this current year? Brendan, what do you think?
Well, if you remember around a year ago when we started seeing the photos, of the sort of the unofficial photos of the stunt guy in the Batman costume and starting to hear a few synopses and things like that, we were both sort of saying it's kind of like we've already had this movie and it's not that long ago. So I can sort of see where they're coming from, like the fact that they're sort of going back to the early days of Batman. It's not, the comparison's not wrong. I'm sure the finished product is going to look very different. But I mean, people seem to love the Nolan movie, so maybe it'll be for the best. Who knows? The movie, actually, my answer would have, obviously, if I can't say Bond, would have been Ghostbusters, but I'll also throw in Halloween Kills as well.
Nice. Jamie, what about you?
I think my concerns over feeling too grounded, Nolan-esque, whatever else for the film are probably far worse than what the general populace's perception of that's going to be. I would actually venture to guess that WB hired Matt Reeves because they thought he would bring it closer to that, or his vision was already closer to that in the pitch meetings or anything else than, say, another filmmaker that they had on the list. And they kind of want to get back to formula with it, if you will. Mm-hmm. Like they want more of the established surefire hit than another risky take. Mm-hmm. So that's why they went with it. So no, I don't think that it's going to suffer from that at all, box office wise or streaming wise, or however it winds up being released. And as far as the movie I'm looking forward to most, it ain't even close. Godzilla versus Kong.
Oh man, good
call.
Of course. Good call.
It's so funny that you said a risky take of Batman, and the risky take being the most comic book accurate one we've ever had.
Depending on who you talk to.
Well, yeah.
So I do think, yes, there's a possibility that certain folks will dismiss the new Batman film as being a little too close to The Dark Knight. Because, yeah, like Brendan said, we thought it, and we've been rooting for it since day one. But even we were like, oh, it's not what I was expecting. That does feel a little more in the Nolan ballpark. So, yeah, I think it's a real possibility that some people could label it that way. We'll have to see. But, yeah. And then as for the movie I'm looking forward to the most, I'm blanking. I would need a list of like what's coming out because I have so lost track of what is coming out that I don't.
Essentially every 2020 movie.
I don't even know anymore. I like both of your choices. I like Halloween Kills. I like Kong versus Godzilla. Those sound good to me. And if I can't pick a comic book movie, that's fine. Because I'm drawing a blank as to what else is coming out. I don't know.
Quiet Place 2.
What was that?
Dune.
Tom and Jerry.
Fast and Furious 9, I guess it would be.
Yeah, I would need like a release list. Anyway, this is how I've lost track of what's even coming out anymore. All right, next message is from Jay. It says, "Hey guys, I love the show. I wanted to let you know that I was listening to you discuss Wonder Woman 1984, specifically about how no one has memories of Wonder Woman, and how I think things work in the DCEU and in the real world. Clark not knowing who Bruce is in BVS makes sense because who knows billionaires in their cities? Not all of them are Elon Musk. So Wonder Woman would just have to be an urban legend like all cities and towns have. I think comics make us think that everyone is out in the open, but I don't think that's how it would be in the real world. Thanks for the entertainment and well wishes." Thanks, Jay. I appreciate that. So no question, just kind of Jay's thoughts on the whole, like, she was out there helping people. Why did nobody know who she was? And I think you bring up some good points. It's like, yeah, it was an urban legend. There was talk of a woman who would help people, but, and even if, like for the people who were like, even though she took out the cameras, there still might have been footage, but like, yeah, 1980s VHS grainy footage of like, yeah, this person, just like the footage of Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster. It's like, yeah, this thing might have happened. There's been murmurs, but it's still not the same as like everyone in the world knowing who Wonder Woman was. Anything else to add, guys?
Nope.
No, not really. Like we said last week, like they showed us her taking the cameras out. Like that was enough for me.
Yeah. All right. Tom Fallows is back. He says, I hope you guys had a great Christmas and a new year. Sadly, I have to avoid your Wonder Woman podcast for now, as our cinemas are still closed for now, but I'm looking forward to seeing it soon. So, what Batman or geeky presents did you get this year, and what are you looking forward to this year? My girlfriend got me a chance to drive a Batmobile this Christmas, so hopefully COVID won't get in the way. Stay safe, Tom Fallows. Thanks, Tom. So yeah, good geeky Christmas presents. Jamie?
I didn't get any Christmas presents, so nothing.
Like hell.
I don't think that's true.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I got stuff from these guys. I thought I already... sorry. I got a Batman as Ebenezer Scrooge, which was added to my Christmas decorum on top of the entertainment center this year. And I got a Joker to go with him. And I got a comic book from some Australian comic book shop.
Nice. Can you read it, or is it in Australian?
It's in Australian.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of oys and cunts. I don't know what it's trying to say.
Well,
I know you like getting all as many covers as you can, so I gave you an exclusive cover from my local comic book shop for Detective. What was it? 1027.
1027. Yeah.
1027. Yeah.
My bad. Sorry, I just that completely slipped my mind.
It's because you didn't open it at Christmas time. You opened mine at like as soon as it arrived, which was like mid-December or something. You were impatient.
I always open stuff. I mean, what if it was a mail bomb?
Yeah, you don't want to expire.
Exactly.
Brendan?
I got quite a bit of stuff, actually. I got the Batman, the animated series Mondo art book from one of my best friends. I would highly recommend if you guys haven't got it. It is gorgeous. I got all the Christmas DC Pops from my brother and his girlfriend. An Aquaman collectible coin from them as well, from Movie World here. Mr. Freeze pop I got from Batman and Robin as well to go on my Schumacher shelf. But the biggest one that I got was a really big surprise from another one of my best friends. She got me a Batman mask framed and signed by Christian Bale.
Cool.
Could you send that to me so I could take a look at it, please? You've got my address.
Just to confirm the authenticity.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's not, some kind of a fake or anything. I promise I'll get it back to you in a very timely fashion.
I know I did post a photo of it on Twitter. I don't know if I posted it in Real Fans, though, so I'm not sure if you've seen it, Jamie.
I have not. But if you just send it to me, I'll check it out. And like I say, I'll get it back to you eventually. Maybe.
I will send you a photo in momentarily.
Nice. Well, I got a Riddler shirt to go with my Riddler boxers.
Technically, that wasn't a Christmas present.
Oh,
though.
that was just a bonus.
I've had it for ages, and that was a good excuse to send it over to you.
Well, I counted
That was your Valentine's Day
I
present?
counted it as Christmas. So, okay, well then never mind, forget it. But Catherine did get me the Lego Batwing from 1989. That is huge and glorious, but I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna open it and put it together because then I would have to take it apart when I leave China in a couple months. So I'm just sitting here staring at it in its box, and it's calling to me, but I'm like, I think I'm gonna wait till I get home. And then she got me a Batman board game that we were going to wrangle some of our friends here to play with us. That looks really cool, where it's like an Arkham Asylum board game, but you're playing as the villains, not as Batman. So that's pretty cool, too.
Hopefully it's less complicated than Almost Got Him.
I like the Nolanverse shelf you got going on here, Brendan. That's cool.
Thank you.
All right. So
Why are Gordon's arms so far off to the sides, though? He looks like he's getting ready to quick draw somebody in the Old West. And Bane's even worse than him.
You'll have to talk to the action figure manufacturer.
All right. More Wonder Woman 1984. This is from Douglas June. It says, hey guys, do you think the reason that this movie is getting so much hate from critics and fans is because they expect every comic book movie should be in the same vein as the MCU, or is it because it's not the MCU? Thanks, Douglas.
How long have you got?
What say you?
I decline to
will
answer that
just say
question just on the
yes.
basis of my own sanity needing to be preserved today. I had too much of that talk yesterday, so I'm sorry, but I'm bowing out of this one.
I'll just agree with Brendan.
I would just say yes. I'm agreeing.
Yes. All right, next message from Keith. It says, sorry if this goes a bit long, but I wanted to tell Jamie how good it was to hear him again and that I'm glad he's taking time for self-care. This might be a little late, but congrats to Andy on the engagement and congrats to Brendan on the upcoming Baby Low. Maybe 2020 wasn't all bad. Now on to Wonder Woman 1984. I know people who've lost loved ones who will often say that they wish that they could see them again. Now, if this is how Diana worded her wish to the stone, instead of asking to actually bring him back, then it makes a little more sense for her to see someone else as him, while everyone else, including Steve, would see the original person. It doesn't fix some of the other issues, but it would explain why he wasn't just created out of thin air, like the Wall or the Nukes. It's just my 2 cents, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Sorry for the long email. Thanks for taking the time for everything you do. Your longtime listener, Keith. Thanks, Keith. Interesting. I mean...
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like her wish would have been, I wish we had more time. And that's still not the same as I wish you would come back to life, you know?
Yeah. Honestly, that's as good of an explanation as I've heard on it so far, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But either way, like whether she words it the way you said, I wish I could see him again, or what I just said is if she had just wished, I wish we had more time, you know, both of those still kind of work as for why he would be brought back in someone else.
I mentioned it a couple of times when we did the review episode that I appreciated that my hand wasn't being held on it. And, you know, Zack never holds people's hands when he makes any of these movies, and that's okay too. I mean, Sucker Punch is easily, I think, Zack's most controversial and probably least accepted film in the general public. I'm like I'm not the only person that loves it. Don't let me say that. But like, I will defend that movie till my dying breath because I love it and I think it's brilliant. Most people think it's a slop bucket mess. But anyway, the point is, certain filmmakers don't feel obliged to over-explain or hold your hand with anything, and that makes you think. Some people really appreciate that. I appreciate it. Sometimes I don't appreciate it with every filmmaker, but in these cases, I like what's being done because I'm questioning things. I'm thinking about it. Here I am 2 weeks later. I'm still sifting through some of the ideas in my head of why or how or anything else. And I like movies that make me think. Not all movies, especially in this particular subgenre of fantasy films, are prone to making somebody think so much as they are painting the picture out completely for you. Am I making sense with this?
I understand your point. I think I do think there's a line though of like there still has to be an internal logic. The stuff still has to add up. Whether or not they spoon feed you is another story, but I still think that the rules need to be consistent and set in the film. And I'm saying this because just this morning we talked about Frozen 2, and that movie is a mess when it comes to story and internal logic and rules because it has none. But like when we were talking about Wonder Woman 1984 last week, like when I was talking about the rules of the stone and how the wishes work and how it decides what it's taking from you, all of those rules work, even though there's never a point where a character has to spell them out for the audience. So I think that I understand your point of like, sometimes you have to ascertain that for yourself, but it still has to be consistent within the movie. And I think there's a line there.
Fair enough. Yeah.
All right, next message is from Ian. It says, hey guys, great podcast as always, but one thing that's been bothering me since I've seen Wonder Woman 1984 is the transition from DC to Egypt and back. They need a jet to get from DC to Egypt, conveniently fully fueled, I might add. Yeah, Ian, I said the same thing. But then Diana's on the phone with Barbara. The next shot is a red streak followed by a shot of trees blowing. Did they fly to Egypt only to run back to DC? Was she carrying Steve, or am I misinterpreting it? Please help. Thanks as always, Ian. Thanks, Ian. I am going to have to go back and watch for that shot because I don't remember a shot that implied they ran back. Did you guys notice that?
Either. I've watched it 3 times, and that doesn't trigger anything with me. But that's not to say I just didn't look down at that particular moment or just don't remember it. I don't know.
I can't remember it either. I mean, they could have been running back to the jet.
Yeah, I mean, if they took a jet to Egypt, it only makes sense they took the jet back.
Yeah.
But then there's an invisible jet sitting there that people are going to run into. But
we talked about that. I've seen people in the last couple of days rip the movie a new one, and I mean like 4-paragraph diatribes about how stupid it was that they not only got this fully fueled jet from a museum, but that it had enough gas to fly to Egypt, and how'd they get the gas to fly back? It's like there's no jet gas stations in Egypt or something. It's like I'm not opening the door. I'm not going to say that some film franchises aren't criticized for the same leaps in logic, but it's true.
I don't know. I don't know how much fuel it takes to get to and from Egypt. Whatever. That's the least of my concerns.
Apparently these people are all aeronautics and flight experts, so they know for a fact that there's no possible way this thing had enough fuel to make it from DC to Egypt. I don't know. I'm not. I mean, if we want to talk about an F-14, I got a little more expertise in that because of Top Gun and G.I. Joe, but I don't know this particular jet that he took over there. I know it wasn't an F-14.
Okay. Anyway, let's move forward. But yes, I'm assuming they took the jet back home. That's a safe bet. They were also in a place that was very rich in oil, so you'd imagine they could get fuel. She's Wonder Woman.
That's what I was thinking.
No jet gas stations in Egypt.
Whatever.
I find that hard to believe, but whatever.
All right, next message from Mike Jameson. It says, greetings, guys. With Wonder Woman 3 greenlit, who do you think will be the villain, and who would you want it to be? I myself would like to see Cheetah return teaming up with Giganta. Also, the chemistry between Gal and Chris Pine is undeniable, but do you feel his screen charisma was wasted playing a supporting DC character? I think he would have made an incredible Green Lantern, especially if they combined Hal Jordan and Kyle Rayner's characterizations, much like what was done with Ezra Miller's version of The Flash, which was Barry Allen and Wally West. Sorry for the long email. Looking forward to your thoughts. To the Batcave. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike. I mean, my answer was your answer. I want Cheetah to return and to team up with Giganta. I'm sorry I don't have any...
That was my suggestion on the episode, so yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm sorry I don't have anything more original for you, but yeah. But as for Chris Pine, are you glad he played Steve Trevor, or do you think you would have rather seen him in a bigger role?
I'm not disappointed with what we got out of him. I think the role and the part was very well done and very well played by him. So I'm not disappointed in that. I'm not going to say I really wish they hadn't used him for that because we could have gotten him for Green Lantern. I mean, there's still plenty of people out there to play various Green Lantern characters. So no, I'm perfectly content with what we got.
Yeah, I think his chemistry with Gal is too good to pass up on. Their magic on screen, like, yeah, I'm very glad that he was playing Steve Trevor opposite her, Diana / Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was great casting. It worked wonderfully in both movies. And yeah, like he was, and I don't think he was a supporting character. I feel like he was the co-lead of both of those films. And much like I always say with Lois Lane, is they have to make Lois Lane so extraordinary that you understand why Superman would fall in love with this human. And you have to do the reverse with Diana and Steve Trevor. You have to make Steve Trevor so charismatic, so likable that you go, Wonder Woman chooses you. And I think Chris Pine pulls that off amazingly in both films. Plus, if we had saved him for Green Lantern, he still wouldn't have done it because we still haven't gotten a Green Lantern since Ryan Reynolds. All right. Next message is from John. It says, long-time listener, first-time caller. He says, hey, Andy, Jamie, and Brendan, BatCasters. I've listened to and loved the show for a very long time, and I can highly recommend the whole network. Which villains for Wonder Woman 3, and also with no Steve, hopefully for character development, not because he's not amazing, are there any characters established in the universe or not you'd like to see added? How would any of them add to the already wonderful world? Huge podcast, DC, and gal love from Scotland. Thanks, John. Okay, so I think we just answered the villains thing. I think we're all on the same page there. I guess I'll add to that, though, is I had, if you go way back, I had a theory that Maxwell Lord might have been Hades in disguise. And it didn't quite work out that way. But if you listen to my theory, aside from him being Hades in disguise, otherwise I was pretty much right.
Yeah, more or less.
About how it was going to play out. Is Steve is back because Diana wished him back and made a deal with Maxwell Lord. It turns out she didn't mean to do it, but that's what happened. And then that's also how Barbara becomes Cheetah. So I'm sorry. I'm going to pat myself on the back for just a second. I called that pretty closely.
Well deserved.
But because we didn't get Hades, I'd love to see them lean into the gods again for part 3 and have one of them coming in and mixing things up. And I think that could be really cool too. And then if Steve's not back, are there any other characters you'd like to see brought in, and how? What do you think, guys?
I've got one. It's a bit out there, but Atlanta from Aquaman.
Oh, okay.
Bring Nicole in. Yeah, I did say that I wanted sort of a female heroes DC movie with Wonder Woman, Atlanta, and what's the face from Aquaman as well. But I think that's a bit controversial now, so I'll just settle for Atlanta.
Yeah. I kind of read between the lines when you said Atlanta, whereas I was like, you wanted to say Mara, and then you're like, I don't want to go down that road.
Yeah.
What, is Amber Heard in trouble again? Did I miss something?
It is the never-ending odyssey with those two. I just want to take them both, slap them both upside the head, and go, move on. You're broken up. Move on. Let it go.
Yeah.
Oh,
you're both as bad as each other.
Yeah, screw them both. Whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. What about you, Jamie? Any other character, whether a Wonder Woman character or from the DC universe, that you'd like to see brought in?
Black Manta.
Great.
Oh, wait, somebody already used that.
Solomon Grundy.
Yeah. Nothing specific is popping to mind. I don't know Wonder Woman's rogues gallery, if you will, as well as I know some others, and there's no other ones outside that aren't, obvious choices like I don't even know if there are obvious choices. I don't know. Batman. There.
I want to say Batman. I know it's an obvious choice, but it's Batman, and I love him.
Superman. How about a Wonder Woman Superman team?
Oh, a spin on the world's finest. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that works.
I think that would be rad as hell.
Watching Shazam team up with Wonder Woman would be pretty cool. like Zach Levi kind of swooning
Yeah.
over her a little bit would be
Yeah.
pretty funny.
How about Wonder Woman, Superman, and Shazam?
Oh. Now we're just getting to
Okay.
Justice League again.
Now I'm just being greedy, but
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm in charge here, let's do this.
How about the mom from Shazam? Because she seems fabulous. And she drives a badass minivan. She can be the new Etta Candy.
I thought you meant Billy's
I thought
mother.
you
I was
were
going to
talking
say,
about his real mom. I'm like, why? So Diana can backhand her?
No.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well,
the
there's your
foster
villain.
mom. Foster mom. I mean, I would take any of it, but I mean, I mentioned it earlier of how much I liked her. Black Canary from Birds of Prey.
I'm assembling in my head the team of females, as Brendan mentioned, and it kind of, I mean, Wonder Woman, Mary Marvel, Black Canary.
Yeah. Atlanta.
I guess Atlanta. I mean, I'm going to say Mara. I don't give a shit about behind the curtain drama. I like Mara as a character, so I'm going to go ahead and say her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Supergirl.
Mm-hmm.
Just because.
Yeah.
This works for me. I like this idea.
Power Girl.
I'm still hoping Marvel gets it together and makes me an entire movie of that whole game of keep away they did with the Gauntlet at the end of Endgame with the female characters, because that might have been my favorite part of that entire saga.
All right. Well, there are some answers, guys. All right. Next message is from Jacob Guzman. It says, "Hey, I loved your review of Wonder Woman 1984, and it was great to hear Jamie again. See, Jamie, people missed you.
Why, thank you.
Question is, if you had to include Steve Trevor for the third movie, whether by contract obligation or a creative choice, how would you do it? Thanks for answering my question. Keep up the good work." Thanks, Jacob. Ooh, so that's tricky. As we kind of said, like, you pulled the trigger on bringing Steve back once. Now we feel like you can't, but let's say you had to. You had to bring him back a third time. How do you do it?
I'm going to do it by, and this is not a choice I would make, but if I had to, gun to my head, Descendant, like what they did with the TV series. Like not a grandson, but maybe like a distant nephew or something like that just happens to look a lot like him and be named after him.
Yeah. It'd be a nice nod to the TV series.
I'm drawing a blank. I can't think of anything other than, the Descendant thing is where my mind went first, but...
I mean, I would, and maybe it's because I just said Hades, is like, I wouldn't bring Steve back to Earth, but maybe Diana ends up in the afterlife somehow. Whether
that could work. Whether
in hell or heaven or somewhere in between, and find Steve there. And it could be a quick thing where it's like, it's more of an extended cameo like Kevin Costner in BVS, where Steve just gives her the push that she needs at a moment where she needs it. Or, it's essentially Steve and Diana on an adventure in the underworld. That way, you're not bringing him back to life. He's not coming back to Earth, but he's, his spirit lives on somewhere. He mentioned it. He doesn't know where it is, but he knows. So she gets his help that way.
That is really good, my friend.
Yeah, but then you got to have her let go of him yet again. That's the part that I really have trouble with.
Yeah, that's always the issue.
I think that story's been told, but since the question was phrased as "had to," that's where we're at.
Right. All right. Well, guess what? We're down to one email, guys.
Really?
Yeah.
My bladder thanks you.
This is Stuart from Guernsey.
Stuart.
He says, "Hey guys, quick question regarding Wonder Woman 1984. Patty said that she actually wanted the movie to be slightly longer, but had to trim it down. So what do you think would have been included with that extra time? I don't know if this is what it would have been, but I would have wanted to see Cheetah's transformation or Diana going back to collect the armor for the final battle. Anyway, I hope you're doing well and are coping with the Christmas blues, Stuart." Thanks, Stuart. Always good to hear from you. So, I heard there's only like one deleted scene. Like, I heard that Patty, everything she shot, she pretty much used. So maybe in the script stage, she had to trim it down or something. But yeah, let's say she had an extra 5 to 10 minutes. What do you think it would have been used for? Jamie, thoughts?
I know I would have used it for more Cheetah, but that's me.
Mm-hmm. that makes sense. Brendan?
Yeah, probably a little bit more Cheetah as far as the transformation goes, because like I said last week, I felt that was an admission. I'd probably would have leaned more, like it had some more Cold War stuff in there, like, you know, more with the, you know, American missile, Russian missile thing, just because that might have taken away some of the criticism of, well, of, you know, why the 80s, even though to us it was obvious. So that sort of Cold War aspect would be something I probably would have included a little bit more of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I agree about the Cheetah transformation, which or more Cheetah time, one way or the other. I think that is good. I don't need to see Diana going back for the armor. We set up that she had it. I can connect the dots myself. But I would say maybe give a little more insight into the wishing stone. You know, because like when they explain it, it's never in a lot of depth, and I feel like maybe we could have, like, honestly, I couldn't even remember the god's name that they said created it.
Neither could I.
Because it wasn't a name I recognized, and I kept waiting for her to say Hades, like that was what made sense to me, and she said some name that like Lagos or something.
Wasn't Loki?
It wasn't Loki, but it was something similar.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like maybe you could have done something with that, as far as like actually diving into the god himself. Now
that you mentioned that, we were kind of missing the running thing of the DC history lesson in this movie. So
yeah, that's true.
That would have been cool to just kind of have a flashback thing to the stone and its
right. Yeah.
rise to where it's at now.
Yeah. So, yeah, just a thought, but...
So, is hashtag release the Jenkins cut trending yet?
No, not yet. Not yet.
I'm
We're
sure
still
they'll
the
get around
Jenkins
to it
cut.
eventually.
Well, this movie is the Jenkins cut, so...
That's true.
Like I said, this was her movie. After the first movie, they really said, make the movie you want to make, and she said she said she didn't cut much footage. You know, again, maybe she did cut stuff from the script stage, but I mean, yeah, this is hers, and she's been very proud of it. She's been very vocal on social media with people who've loved the movie and how much she appreciates the people who love it. So, yeah, everything we have heard leads us to believe that this is the movie she wanted to make. And personally, I loved it. I'm all for it. Well, guess what, guys? We did it.
Hooray.
We caught up on emails. Hooray!
There's a lot of emails, but I'm actually surprised it's not as many as I thought there would be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, part of it's my fault because I only put the call out for it yesterday. So, yeah. Oh, well, no worries. I'm sure more will trickle in time for the next episode, whatever that one's going to be about. But still, this seems like a good place to wrap it up. Thank you guys. Honestly, everybody who wrote in, asked questions, shared your thoughts. We do appreciate it. We like hearing from you. And so thanks for that. So if you do got something for the next episode, you can send that to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. For a rare moment right now, the box is empty. So I'm going to enjoy that for a second because I know it won't last. But yeah, send an email to holybatcast at rf4rm.com, and hopefully we'll discuss it on the next episode. But that will do it for this episode. So, gentlemen, always a pleasure. Jamie, thanks for doing 2 in a row. We appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it normalcy. This all feels like normalcy somehow.
Yeah.
And I think we could all use a little normalcy in our lives these days. So.
Agreed. And Brendan, thank you as well.
No problem. Anytime. You know that.
Usually. You can't find Jamie on Twitter, but you can find Brendan, Loey007.
That's the one.
Loey007. And occasionally the Nightlight.
Occasionally. Which
Next
is at Nightlight
next
Pod.
Christmas.
You know where to find me.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for writing in. Thanks for contributing, and we do appreciate it. Please do subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And as Michael Keaton's Batman says, I want you to tell all your friends about me. Sorry, speaking of Michael Keaton's Batman, last night we watched Batman 89, as we do, and I was watching it, and I kid you not, I could not remember if we ever did a commentary for that. And then I looked it up and saw that we did. And I was like, well, I'm glad I looked it up.
For the 30th.
Yeah, I'm glad I looked it up, because I honestly would have been like, hey, we should do a commentary for Batman 89. I completely forgot
Next year we've got to do Batman Returns next year.
Oh, well, perfect. Something to look forward to.
Anyway,
anyway, sorry.
the 30th next year.
Oh, geez. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Visit holybatcast.com. Find Holy BatCast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Again, email address is holybatcast@rf4rm.com. So that'll do it. On behalf of Brendan and Jamie, I've been Andy. We'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Holy BatCast is brought to you by real fans for real movies. Remember, the thoughts and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone, and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
What about like if it was like a big old cunt and he'd be cunt man?
Jesus. Oh.
Just a big old crash and cunt through the glass.
Sounds like that Woody Allen movie with the giant boob that was attacking
Oh
people.
yeah, I love that one.
I just thought of something, but I'm not going to say it.
A big old man.
No, I was going to say you'd smell it coming.
Oh.
Oy.
Jesus.